Okay, so let's start. Hi, everyone. My name is Étienne. I'm a senior advisor at Mitacs in strategic partnership and international affairs. And I'm here today with my colleague, Annie. Annie, do you want to present yourself?
Hi everyone, so I'm Annie Hoang. So I am one of the advisors from the business development team, and I am based in Calgary. So I work primarily with the University of Calgary.
All right, thank you, Annie. And today we will be discussing about the Mitacs Globalink Research Award, GRA, quantum offering. If you have any questions, you can use the Q&A section, and Annie and I can respond directly in there. Or if you prefer to ask your questions verbally, you can also request it in the chat, and we can unmute yourself. We can unmute you through the webinar mode, and we can also take questions in the end. If ever you want to ask your question in French, that's also fine. I can respond. I can respond in both languages. And yeah, let's start. So Mitacs is a not-for-profit organization that drives innovation in Canada through different partnerships and research projects. And today, more precisely, we'll discuss about one program in particular, which is called the Globalink Research Award Program, as we call it, the GRA program. So if we start just with the basic of what is GRA, then we'll dig more into details about what is the quantum offering more specifically. So in terms of the basic, the program is really a intern mobility program that is aiming to support international research collaboration between Canada and other countries. So for each of these projects, there's always a university in Canada and a university abroad that is involved. It is open to various levels in the university, so senior undergrads. By that we mean interns who have completed 2 years of their undergrad. It's also open to graduate students and postdoctoral fellows. The standard award for GRA projects is $6,000, but it can go up to $15,000, especially for the quantum offering, and I'll explain in which situation the funding can go up to that. And for each of these projects, it is between 12 to 48 weeks. Also, the program supports projects that are including mobility to Canada and from Canada. So there could be inbound or outbound mobility within different projects, but also within the same project. It's open to all discipline, but of course today we're going to be talking more about quantum, but it's open to all discipline in general. And lastly, there's always an academic supervisor in Canada and one academic supervisor at the university abroad. In terms of what we are offering, especially for quantum, so first of all, what do we mean by quantum? So I put a small definition over there, and it's also available on our website. But overall, it's very broad, and it includes quantum computing, algorithms, software, quantum communication, networks, cryptography, quantum metrology, sensing, imaging, and materials. And if ever you have a project in quantum and the specific field is not listed here, don't hesitate to ask us. Even though we listed some fields, it's not restrictive. So basically anything with a quantum technology component is technically eligible. In terms of funding, we have two offerings within the quantum offering. So the regular one is with any university available in the list of eligible countries. For that regular offering, the award starts at $6,000 for projects that are during 12 to 24 weeks and can go up to $12,000 for longer projects that are from 24 weeks to 48 weeks. Now, the second offering is with Mitacs international partners. So Mitacs as an organization has some specific key partners around the world. And when the quantum project is with one of these partners, then the funding is slightly higher. So for the smaller duration of 12 to 24 weeks, the funding goes up to $9,000. And for the longer period of time, so 24 to 48 weeks, it can go up to $15,000. So for the first offering that I was mentioning, in terms of the list of eligible countries, so most countries in the world are eligible, There are a few exceptions that are mostly countries where there is social unrest or even civil war. So there is quite a lot of possibilities in terms of countries. That list is on our website if ever you want to double check. But as I said, most countries in the world are eligible. For the second part of the offering with our international partners, we have currently 6 of Mitacs international partners participating. And for this specific list, the award is a bit higher, as I said, so 9,000 for the smaller period or 15,000 for the longer period. So we have a partner in Brazil, in France, in Germany, and in Taiwan. Especially for France and Taiwan, it is quite broad. For example, for France, with the French embassy in Canada, it covers all universities in France for mobility to France for projects that are not with Quebec. So if you're in any other places in Quebec and you want to send interns in France, then this partner would be a good idea. And then for Taiwan, that's also quite large. All universities in Taiwan are eligible with these partners. So I'm just naming few differences, but of course, for each of these partners, there are specificities and potentially different eligibility criteria. So if ever you're interested or you think that your project may be eligible for one of these partners, you can go on our website, look at the partner itself and see if it matches your project. If you're not sure, you could always reach out to Annie or myself or any of the Mitacs advisor located at your institution in Canada. But those are the current possibilities for the quantum offering for international partners. I put here a few examples of what could be a GRA quantum project. So for example, it could be a Canadian PhD student traveling to UCLA in the United States to examine a quantum biology application. And so that's one example of outbound mobility to the US. Then an example of inbound mobility to Canada. You could have another PhD student from KIT in Germany coming to a Canadian university to investigate quantum decryption failures. And my last example is about a project that has inbound and outbound mobility. So you could have 5 interns on the same project, and it could be an exchange with the National University of Singapore, with Canada, of course, to develop a novel quantum algorithm for key means. So those are 3 examples, but it could be many different other projects with a lot of different universities as well. Uh, Now, in terms of other features of the program, so there's a possibility to do up to 25% of the duration of the internship at the home institution. So let's say you have a 12 weeks internship to the UK. The intern in Canada could stay 3 weeks in Canada to start the internship and then do only 9 weeks abroad. So that's one flexibility we're offering. Then the other feature that is interesting is up to 5 interns per project that can include both inbound and outbound mobility. And when you have a project with multiple interns, these interns can also travel at different time. So let's say you have a project with France, you have 3 interns in your project. You could send one intern to France to do a 20 weeks internship. That intern could work with the professor over there, potentially with other students. And then when their internship is done, they would come back to Canada. And then if your French partner wants to send 2 of their interns to then work in Canada on the same project with the same intern, but this time with the Canadian prof, that's a possibility. So all the interns don't have to travel at the same time. They just have to travel within 12 weeks after the outcome letter is received. So that's another quite interesting flexibility, especially for bigger collaboration where you want this kind of interaction. Now, in terms of the application process, I'll hand it over to Annie.
All right, thank you, Étienne. So I'm going to go over the general steps for the application process. So these are, so your university might have more specific steps, but today we'll just go over the more general process for now. Next slide, please. All right, so GRA applications, you will be submitting it on a application portal. Please keep in mind, Mitacs, we do have several application portals right now for our different programming. So for GRA, please make sure you're using the correct one. On the application portal, that's where you'll upload, you'll find the research proposal template, and then you'll fill it in, upload it. It's also where you can put in all the participant information. So that's all the administrative information that will be on the portal directly, as well as the budget. We do have more detailed instructions on the program guide, which when you go on the portal on the landing page, you'll find that program guide. Each person on the project, so the student and the academic supervisors, will each have a profile or an account on the portal, and they can upload, they can fill in their profile for their admin information. You'll have to select a Mitacs advisor for your application. So depending on which Canadian university you're at, please select the Mitacs advisor from that university. So for example, in Calgary, if there's a University of Calgary project, they would select myself. But if you were working at University of Toronto, please select the Mitacs advisor there. They help this just gives them a way to view your application, help check the eligibility, and they can also do kind of a pre-review before it gets submitted. In terms of the sign-off process, once the application is completed, all the participants have to sign off on the portal. You can, before you sign off, there is a way to download kind of a PDF copy of the entire application first, so you can just check to make sure everything looks okay, and then everyone would sign off. The last signature is the Canadian University signature. Please check with your Mitacs advisor to see what the internal processes are, and also if there's any internal deadlines or any other things, other steps that you should know about. So the Mitacs advisor can advise on that part. Please keep in mind the university signatures varies depending on which Canadian university you're working with. Some might take a few days, it could take a week. There are some universities that might take as much as 3 weeks to get that last signature. So please keep that in mind, and especially if you know when the student has to travel. And then once the Canadian university signs off, you can upload that signature page back onto the portal and click submit. So it will be submitted through the portal, and then there will be a step that says pre-departure form. So some students can get it done at the time of submission. They do have the option of submitting the pre-departure form after the outcome letter has been received by the student. Next slide, please. All right, so this is just kind of a quick screenshot of the application portal. Again, please make sure you're using the correct GRA portal. If you haven't made an account yet, you can make a new account. If you've submitted a GRA application in the past, you can just sign in with your previous login information. Next slide, please. All right, so when you go on the GRA portal, you'll write your title, and then you'll be asked, do you have a Mitacs international partner? So if you don't have an international partner, just click no. If you do have a Mitacs international partner, click yes, and then write which one it is. Please make sure your project is eligible for that international partner, so make sure you are checking the eligibility first. Next slide, please. All right, so on the application portal, when you get to the budget section, because you're doing a quantum application, make sure you are clicking the correct category. So if there's no Mitacs international partner, make sure you are clicking on the quantum Globalink Research Award category so that it chooses the correct funding model. If you have an international partner, again, make sure you click the one that says quantum with international partner. This is just so you have the correct funding model for your project. Next slide, please. Okay, so step by step, again, this is just a general step by step. So a lot of these collaborations, typically they are already based off of pre-existing relationships. So a lot of projects I see, the professor in Canada already has collaborators abroad, and they'd like to send students abroad, or maybe they'd like to host a student in Canada. And some people even start new collaborations using this program. So once you check your eligibility, double check with your Mitacs advisor at your Canadian university, just to make sure you know what the internal steps are, especially for the sign-off process. You can start your application on the GRA portal, complete the application, have everyone sign off, and then get the university signature. And then you can click submit on the portal. Once you submit it, it does take about 10 to 12 weeks for Mitacs to review the application. So you'll have to wait a few months for that. And then once, assuming it gets approved, the Mitacs grants team will contact the applicants, and then the student will have to fill out the pre-departure form if they haven't done so already, and other travel forms. Please keep in mind the student does have to submit those forms in order for Mitacs to send the funding to the university, which takes another few weeks. Next slide, please. And that's all for that part. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I saw some question in the Q&A, but I was sharing my screen. I was scared to click on it, so it stopped the screen sharing. So let me just see. Okay, so there's a first question that says, why is Quebec not included for the call with the French embassy? So this is a preference from the French embassy because there are already a lot of research collaboration between Quebec and France. So they wanted to increase the collaboration outside of the province of Quebec. But if you do want to work with France, it's still possible, even with the quantum offering. It's just that there's no extra funding because this partner unfortunately only funds project outside of Quebec. Second question, does GRA is open for research assistant and research professional? So the GRA program is open for senior undergrad, grad students, postdoctoral fellows. So sometimes postdoctoral fellow doesn't exist abroad, so they're considered research assistants. But in Canada, those are really the levels that we are supporting through the program. And then in the chat, what is the last date to apply for this program? Okay, so there is no hard deadline for the quantum offering. It is currently open all year. However, we strongly encourage people to submit at least 16 weeks in advance. So we have time to process it, and you have enough time to plan your trip and do any immigration process if needed. So general rule of thumb, 16 weeks before intended travel dates. Then other question, can I apply without being enrolled in a university? BTech graduate. So you have to be registered full-time in a university during the internship. But if you apply to a university and, for example, you start a master's in the fall, you could apply for a GRA project starting in the fall or next winter as a master's student from that university. But you really need to be registered full-time in your university degree for the whole time of the internship. Okay, next question. For students coming to Canada, if the request is to stay 17 plus weeks, who will support the work permit application? So for any immigration questions, I'm not authorized to give any advice because it's not legal in Canada. So if you need any advice for immigration, you can either seek support at the embassy or at the consulate of Canada if you're coming to Canada, or at the consulate or embassy of the other country where you're going. In addition, usually universities in Canada have some kind of immigration advice available for inbound students, so people coming to Canada. So some universities will have that support, and they have the staff with the certificate to be able to provide these immigration advice. Okay, and last questions. Can the funding be used for conferences rather than transfer students? So no, the funding cannot be used to go for a conference. The award is really to pay for international mobility, stipend, potentially research costs, cost of living, but it's really there to fund a research internship, either in Canada or abroad, depending where of the travel direction. Okay, more questions are coming. Perfect. Another questions. By outcome letter, you're referring to the notice award letter, correct? Versus the application review result document. Great question. So we have a system of two letters. So there is the outcome letter that is sent to participant to say your project is approved, your project was rejected. And then there's another letter that's called the award letter that confirms that we have all documents needed, that you've accepted the internship, and that the funds will be transferred to the Canadian university to be then transferred to the intern. Okay, another question. Typical GRAs at our institution require institutional approval before applying. There is an annual allocation. Can you confirm that there is no such pre-approval requirement for the quantum GRA? Also a great question. So the quantum offering is not calculated in the allocation of the Canadian universities. So all universities in Canada can apply, and if there are GRA projects in quantum submitted with their institution, it doesn't count in the allocation. But for sure, any of these projects needs to be signed by either the ORS or international office, depending which office manages the program at the Canadian institution. So I don't know if it's a pre-approval, but it's definitely a support. So by the signature. So usually the Mitacs advisor at the institution will know how to proceed to get this support and this signature, and that process may be quite different from one institution to the other one. Okay, another question. Can most of the duration of the research be in Canada, like 80% and 20% in the partner country? So no, it cannot. The maximum you can do in your home country, whether it's Canada or another country, is 25% of the internship, and the rest, 75%, has to be done abroad. All right, a lot of good questions. Any other questions for Annie and I? And sorry, Annie, I took all the questions.
A few more in the Q&A.
Oh, there's a few more? Okay, do you want to read it or you want me to read them?
Oh, sure. How long should the application be submitted before the actual research visit period?
So at least 16 weeks to make sure that Mitacs has enough time to review. So yeah, at least 16 weeks would be good.
Okay. Can I submit more than one application with different international institutions?
So that depends if the question is from an intern or a professor. So Carlo, if you're a professor, then you can submit various projects with different institutions and different interns. But if you're a student or a postdoctoral fellow, you can submit only one project at a time because there's only one project that can be given to a single intern.
Okay. I am a student in a master research degree. Am I eligible to apply?
Yes, you are eligible. I think I'm seeing another one that just popped. Is the award meant to cover all travel and living costs while abroad for the intern, in addition to salary? So that's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't think that whether it's 6,000 or even until 15,000, depending on the duration, I don't think it's enough to cover for everything. So it's an award that helps the intern cover some expenses, but it's not covering everything. And it also depends where the internship is happening. If someone is coming to Vancouver or Toronto, it's quite expensive. But if you go to Trois-Rivières in Quebec or a smaller city, then the cost of living will be smaller. And it's the same thing for people going abroad, going outside of Canada. If you go to London or Hong Kong, it's going to be quite expensive. But if you go to another country where cost of living is lower, then you may be able to do more with the award. But yeah, it doesn't cover everything. And I think I see more in the chat as well. Yeah, so there's no call for proposal. It's what we call a campaign. So we're promoting the offering, but there's no hard deadline. We mentioned April 31st just as a soft deadline if people are planning to travel in August. But as a general rule, we encourage people to submit 16 weeks in advance. But this offering is open all year. There's no hard deadline. All right, no more questions in the Q&A and no more in the chat. Anyone else has a question or a comment? No? All right, well, thank you everyone for your time and for coming to our webinar on the GRA Quantum offering. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to Annie or myself or to the local Mitacs advisor, and we'll be very happy to support you. And thank you, Annie, as well for presenting with me.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you. Bye-bye.